direct the Committee of the Chief of Defense Staff to activate the ECOWAS standby force with all its elements immediately. Order the deployment of the ECOWAS standby force to restore constitutional order in the Republic of Niger.
Welcome to African Addict, your trusted source for the latest news stories and developments from across the African continent. From breaking headlines to inspiring achievements, political updates to cultural moments, we bring you the facts, the voices, and the impact that shape Africa today. Stay informed, stay connected, and join the conversation. This is African Addict, where Africa comes first. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for daily updates. Disclaimer: the content shared on African Addict is for informational and educational purposes only. While we strive for accuracy and fairness in our news reporting, we do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, or accuracy of the information presented. Opinions expressed in our videos do not necessarily reflect the views of the channel. Viewers are encouraged to verify details independently and form their own conclusions.
Good evening, Africa and the world at large. You're watching African Addict, where we bring you the stories that shape our continent. Tonight, we bring you a report that has sent seismic shockwaves through the geopolitical landscape of West Africa. The headline: Breaking ECOWAS declares war on S alliance with Mali, Niger, Ghana. This is not hyperbole. What we're witnessing is the kind of crisis that ultimately defines eras, a defining moment where sovereignty and regional solidarity come into collision with established norms, external pressure, and the old guard's appetite for control. To understand what's unfolding, we must rewind the tape. Over the past 18 months, Burkina Faso's Captain Ibrahim, joined by leaders in Mali and Niger, has forged a powerful new bloc. Some call it the Sahel Alliance. Others call it a pan-Sahelian pivot. Their declaration: no more drones, troops, or strategic decisions determined by foreign capitals. No more exploitative extractive deals. No more exporting raw minerals without adding value here. Ghana, under President John Dramani Mahama, recently signaled interest in joining, marking a shift that would carry this alliance well beyond the Sahel into coastal West Africa. Diplomats in Accra and Washington were stunned. Multilateral analysts took notice, but what really changed the game was S announcement earlier this week sent over live broadcasts declaring a common regional currency, joint military command, and expanded defense cooperation, including combined training exercises and intelligence sharing across Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and soon Ghana. Immediately, alarm bells rang across ECOWAS, the economic community of West African states. ECOWAS leaders issued an unprecedented statement that any member state which continues to cooperate politically or militarily with the alliance shall be subject to full economic sanctions, suspension from ECOWAS institutions, and the deployment of regional forces to preserve democratic norms. It's a declaration that can only be described as hostile and punitive. The wording left little to interpretation. ECOWAS will use the full spectrum of its institutional power, economic, diplomatic, and possibly militarized, to prevent this emerging alliance from gaining traction. Here's the raw reality. Sanctions are being drafted. The ECOWAS standby force is on high alert. Letter exchanges point to the possibility of troop movements to reinforce democratic order. Remember, this isn't a shooting war, at least not yet. It's the war of institutions and influence: money, borders, commerce, passports, banking. It's a strategic encirclement, but it reeks of brinkmanship, the kind that risks NATO-style escalation if the alliance refuses to back down. In Accra, both analysts and private whispers within government admit that Ghana's announcement caught them off guard. President Mahama's move is seen as a bold leap, perhaps too bold given ECOWAS's deep institutional roots and powerful economic reach. With Ghana joining the Sahel bloc, it immediately becomes a target for ECOWAS retaliation. Trade barriers, withdrawal from regional finance, constraints on cocoa and gold exports. In Ouagadougou, Captain lashed back earlier tonight: if ECOWAS sees solidarity with our African brothers as grounds to punish, that is their choice. We did not ask for permission to defend our dignity. He cautioned ECOWAS not to confuse subservience with solidarity. There were thousands of backing voices from the gallery and street rallies celebrating the announcement. In Bamako, Mali's junta leader Colonel Gota echoed, "Let ECOWAS threaten, let them sanction, we will not crumble." This alliance is the reset button Africa has been waiting for. In Niamey, General Tiani similarly condemned ECOWAS, accusing it of double standards, citing the bloc's silence when foreign powers undermined constitutional order but eagerness to punish elected leaders aligned with their cause. ECOWAS has traditionally defined itself as the defender of constitutional governance, but is it really upset because these nations are turning to authoritarian practices? Not entirely. ACRA's pivot, especially, is framed as democratic. It involves President Mahama, a former elected leader. No, this action is about institutional sovereignty and jurisdictional threat. The alliance is challenging ECOWAS's financial architecture, its diplomatic clout, and its security regime. A shared currency, joint defense system, and cooperation beyond ECOWAS's umbrella would significantly weaken ECOWAS. For ECOWAS, it comes down to power. Can it remain the economic backbone of West Africa, or will it fade in the wake of new regional formations? Sanctions are already being prepared for Mali and Niger. Financial blacklists, freeze on cross-border trade, passport restrictions. The bloc has started procedures to ban these nations from ECOWAS parliament, court systems, even public-private forums. They can deploy the standby force but only under strict democratic mandate. Ghana's presence complicates that because ECOWAS would risk violating its own treaties if it used force against a democratically governed country. ECOWAS may also lean on diplomatic isolation, already seen in statements from Paris, Washington, and Brussels, all warning that West African stability depends on coherent regional frameworks, that is, ECOWAS. The alliance envisions a shared Sahel currency to remove dependence on the CFA franc, dollar, and euro, a joint air and land command to pool anti-terror assets for internal security, a mutual trade zone to build resilience and reduce tariffs, and Pan-African energy and mining projects to cut out expatriate rents. It's effectively an alternative regional superstructure, and ECOWAS perceives it as an existential challenge. In Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, public support is growing. Markets rallied yesterday on infrastructure news. Youth and nationalist influencers are calling the ECOWAS move neo-imperial. In Ghana, more conservative voices are wary. Small traders worry about potential trade barriers. Labor unions are calling for a full briefing. In Nigeria, Senegal, and Ivory Coast, governments are playing cautious. They see promise in unity but aren't ready to back what they call a military-led bloc. Senegal's president said, "We must preserve regional stability, but not at the cost of national dignity." The United States issued a neutral statement urging restraint, but diplomatic cables leaked show concern. This threatens regional order. The European Union warned of trade consequences if ECOWAS directives are ignored, but privately acknowledged that ECOWAS now faces a stronger challenge than ever. China and Russia sound encouraging. Russian officials call it a hopeful sign of African sovereignty, quietly offering dialogue on alternate finance and development. The United Nations is urging de-escalation and mediation. A high-level envoy is expected in Ouagadougou next week. What's at stake is monumental. Could West Africa paradigm shift into Pan-African sub-blocks that bypass older systems? Will Ghana risk its largest trade partnerships with the US, UK, and EU by aligning with a non-ECOWAS bloc? Could ECOWAS survive this challenge, or is it condemned to become a relic? The next 10 days are crucial. ECOWAS sanctions go into effect. Ghana's finance minister is expected to brief parliament on strategic approach. Sahel nations ramp up military movement drills. The AES Currency Council holds a secret meeting. An envoy attempts shuttle diplomacy between ECOWAS, Ghana, the Sahel bloc, and external powers. If both sides refuse to back down, expect sustained economic isolation, legal battles in ECOWAS courts, and internal protests in Ghana and Benin, followed by inflation and devaluations. Best case, a mediated agreement emerges, limited alliance, with time to test mechanisms before full rollout. This is not just another policy row, it is a tectonic shift in African alignment. It asks, do African states owe allegiance solely to colonial-era regional bodies, or can they forge new alliances? Is sovereignty merely domestic, or also institutional? Who will write Africa's next chapter, external powers or Africans themselves? Today, ECOWAS has signaled that it will defend its turf with everything at its disposal. But what if ECOWAS is not the future but part of the past? Whatever happens, West Africa's record is being rewritten with diplomacy, economies, currencies, armies, and futures on the line. One thing is sure, Africa is moving toward new coalitions, new currencies, new futures. Whether the world stands still or stands with it is the question of our era. From here in our studio, we'll be tracking every update. For now, we invite you to send your thoughts, follow our channels, and stay tuned to what may be the most consequential moment in contemporary African history. This is African Edict. Good night.
Thank you for watching African Addict, your home for reliable African news and stories that matter. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with the latest from across the continent. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a headline. Until next time, stay informed, stay inspired. This is African Addict, bringing Africa closer to you.